everybody. We're live at the Co-op here with Rod Babers. I'm Bobby Burton. Jerry Hamilton coming to us as well. We're here to talk a little Longhorn football. 7-1 Longhorns taking on the Florida Gators tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. It's an early kick. Rod B, you and CJ Vogel going to be out early there, though. They're going to be testing their wiles in the EA Sports video game tomorrow on Bevo Boulevard. Make sure you stand up for Rod. They're competing against Corey Mose, the KVU sports anchor. CJ's got him, and you've got Fozzie Whitaker on tap in this game coming up, Rod. Kind of funny stuff. You ready to do that? You would have beat Fozzie back in the day. Right?
Yeah.
What about now?
When I was playing you. Yeah, now as a 43-year-old dad, I don't know if I have the time to put into the game, but tonight I'm pulling a cram session, so I will be ready for game time, damn it. No excuses. No excuses, baby.
You got to do that.
I'm taking
basketball.
I'm taking Houston Lamar over Pearland. I'm taking Houston Lamar over Pearland.
There you go.
Houston Lamar over Pearland.
Yeah,
there we go. Love it. I wanted to say this. Texas plays Houston Christian tonight in basketball at the Moody Center as well. So they've got that. The women's basketball team plays on Sunday. They start their home season as well, 2:00, I believe. So feel free, as you can hear, another donation made towards our friends over at the Co-op. Hey, we're going to get to y'all's questions, topics, give our final thoughts on Florida before this game tomorrow. And I'm going to start with you, Rod, and let you give us where you think this game is headed against the Gators.
Oh, man, honestly, I have a lot of faith and confidence in the Texas defense. I mean, Sark even said it earlier this week, right? We don't talk about how good that defense is. We don't talk about it enough. I have a lot of faith in them. I think that defense is going to be able to hold Florida to maybe one touchdown. You know, I don't think they're going to be able to march the length of the field on that Texas defense. Nobody really does. They've allowed, 10 on the last 10 scoring drives. I think 2 of those drives have been over 38 yards. And I don't think Florida, no matter who the quarterback's going to be, whether it's Aiden Warner or whether it's a hamstrung DJ Lagway, I don't think they're going to be able to make a lot of plays against this Texas defense, which, by the way, I think is the best defense in the country. I really do. Statistically, you could say that, but I think actually if you look at the sample size of it, they've proven that over, 2/3 of the season. Offensively, to me, they got a lot of questions to answer in this Florida game. The pass protection issues on the offensive line, where they've allowed 11 sacks in the last 2 games. I want to see them come out and have a bounce back performance, if you will, in this matchup. I'd like to see the running game get some juice. Sark talks about the mojo of the offense. I think that's getting back to where the offense actually has an identity. I think that the offense kind of lost its identity a little bit the last 3 weeks, and that's a lot of different reasons. Injury to Quinn, the offensive line having some inconsistency, not having a true consistent running game. I think a lot of that can, be a reason or variables to add to exactly why they've lost their mojo, as Sark said it. But this is the game to get your mojo back. If they can't get their mojo back in this game, and then maybe this is just who they are as an offense. And that's perfectly fine, by the way. Still one of the best offenses in the country, but maybe that ceiling that we keep expecting them to get to, maybe they've already hit it.
Against the pass rush, the ceiling has been thwarted by the pass rush. I really believe that. If you give Quinn an open pocket, I think he's as deadly as anybody out there.
Agreed.
And he proved that at times. And he's even he has stepped up at times during the season. He did it against Vandy.
Yep.
He did against Michigan. The middle of the schedule, though, against Oklahoma, not so much. Against Georgia, maybe he was just gun shy there. But hey, Jerry Hamilton joins us as well. Jerry, I was going to ask you a little bit more. And somebody asked in the chat, and I want to get your take on this. With the letter of recommendation, or the vote of confidence the Florida athletic director gave Billy Napier yesterday, does that make this Georgia team a more dangerous team as they come to Austin today or tomorrow morning?
No, not for me. Look, I jokingly said I think they moved Billy Napier from questionable to probable on the SEC injury report with that letter. But I think that was done for multiple reasons. I think one of the big reasons is, one, it's never good for a coach if the AD puts that out. So you hope Billy Napier survives. But look, people are trying to recruit their best players into the portal right now. And when it's in limbo, if your coach is going to be there or not, if the university's not solidly behind that coach, then it gets dicey because recruiting's changed. I mean, DJ Lagway will be a coveted quarterback by schools that want to see a quarterback jump in the portal. Eugene Wilson, the wide receiver, their best wide receiver, is now out for the year. Probably not a coincidence. He played 4 games so he could preserve a redshirt year. And I'm not saying he's going to leave, but he played 4 games, came back off the knee surgery. Now he's out for the year. So you have to protect your players. You have to protect your assets these days. Players are being recruited into the portal all the time. Let's just say that all the time. And if the Sharks smell blood in the water, they're coming after your best players.
So you don't think this is them? This doesn't make Florida more dangerous. You think it's asset protection move by the AD. So saying, hey, this is signaling DJ Lagway, who we know. I actually went out to a golf course with a friend at Florida Gator today, and I was out there hanging out with him. I did not play golf, by the way, because that would have went awry really quickly. But the point was, it's clear that they do see DJ Lagway as kind of their, I don't want – savior is not the right word, but their centerpiece going forward. And I think that is a fair statement. And so anything that the AD would do would be likely with not only Billy Napier in the head coaching position in mind, but a key asset like the quarterback, as Jerry is mentioning there. All right.
I want to mention one other thing. I went back and looked at the Florida-Tennessee box score when Florida gave Tennessee all they wanted in that overtime game. Both starting corners from Florida are out, Jason Marshall and Devin Moore. They're now out tomorrow, Rod. So that means their 3 top corners going into the year, none of them are playing against Texas Saturday. Safety's banged up. One of their other DBs is banged up. They're going to play. They're unquestionable. Graham Mertz was a starting quarterback in that game, out. Montrell Johnson was a starting running back in that game. He's still questionable. He's questionable every week. Eugene Wilson started at receiver. He's out. Elijah Badger, the other starting receiver, is questionable. It's an injured team. It's not the same team physically from a health perspective that went up to Tennessee and gave the Vols all they want. And look, I know they played, and I'm not saying they're saying Florida's a bad team. I just want to make it clear on my end. This secondary, Rod, is beat the hell up. And I'm interested to see how Austin Armstrong tries to defend Texas tomorrow, working without his 3 best corners when they started the season. That's significant. I mean, think about taking Manny Muhammad, Gavin Holmes, and Jahdae Barron off your team and going to play a team that has as much speed as Texas does at wideout. I'm interested to see what he does against Texas.
Good point.
That I'm talking the defensive coordinator there at Florida. You know, the other thing that I would add to that, just to kind of get us to thinking about it, what do you do if you have problems at corner? You rush the passer.
Yep.
You don't make them guard as long.
Yep.
What has Texas had issues with?
Yep.
The pass rush.
Pressure packages.
Yep. And so maybe that's a good thing in some ways if you're a Florida Gator fan. Press the issue and see what happens in that first half. But the one thing that I would say, beyond all of this that y'all talked about this game, it's how this game starts, I think, will be dictated about how it ends in some way. So if Texas can get out in front, multiple score lead against a Florida team that we think whose offense is going to be hamstrung, literally, that could be a recipe for Florida trying to throw the football, and they just aren't going to be able to do that.
Yep.
Right?
Agreed.
So if Texas can get out to a fast start, which hasn't been something the Sark's done, all of a sudden we could be looking at a game that might get out of hand quickly. Otherwise, we could see what we saw at Georgia or down at Jacksonville last week between Florida and Georgia, where it was just, heavyweights trying to figure out who wasn't going to mess up the most.
Yeah.
Because that's what that game felt like to me. Georgia ultimately messed up less than Florida.
And that's why it'd be disappointing if coming out of a bye week, Texas doesn't start fast. All right. You got Florida coming off the most physical game they played all year. You talked about it, Jerry. I mean, you've seen that availability report. They're a mass unit right now. They got starters that are out. Texas probably as fresh as they've been and as healthy as they've been all season. They'll have Bond back, likely have Makuba back. So to me, if they don't have that fast start with a week to prepare, with an extra week to get healthy, to solve the problems that that have really plagued them the last couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'd be disappointed, frankly, because they should have a fast start. And if they do have that fast start, like you said, Bobby, that's going to force Florida to abandon whatever game plan they have and be a pass-first team. If they're pass-first against Texas, that's going to put them at a huge disadvantage.
Hey, Rod,
here we
go ahead.
Real quick, Jerry. I need to talk about one of our sponsors. We're here today at 40 Acres, at the University of Texas Co-op, courtesy of 40 Acres Apparel. The University of Texas Co-op is a nonprofit and has been serving the Longhorn community since 1896. Every penny of profit directly benefits course material scholarship. In fact, over 7,000 students receive free course material scholarships in the 2023-24 academic year. 40 Acres Apparel, which Rod and I are wearing today, was born inside DKR. Quan Cosby here looking pretty fly in it as well. Designed and built exclusively for the University of Texas and Longhorn Nation. Go down to the co-op or go to universityoftexascoop.com and get geared up with 40 Acres Apparel. Great designs, fashionable, high quality, SPF 50 moisture wicking. It's a super great product. Looks great, feels great. 40 Acres is also a proud sponsor of the course material scholarships for UT students. Guys, we love coming over here every day, every week, game week, when it's a home game, and visiting with fans beforehand. We talk a little about to them afterwards as well. And the co-op is a great gathering place, I think, on a Friday pregame, because everybody can come here. They actually also, by the way, have a little happy hour going on upstairs. If you come in and get a little game day, get a little brew for free, get to do all that. All right, Jerry, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. No. I'm going to get back to you now. What you have to? What were your thoughts on what Rob was saying?
No, yeah. I just wanted to say this. I wanted to say on DJ Lagway, I'll make a proclamation. If he plays tomorrow, I'll do a live feed from in front of Texags radio the day before A&M in Texas. That dude ain't playing.
If he plays, just one play. If he's out there for one play, that's all it would.
Yes.
Wow.
James Follett says, "Can Florida be fined if they're lying about DJ Lagway?"
They say
it seems crazy that he's carted off the field one Saturday and then playing the next. Look, you actually, I think the coach can be fined for misreporting. That's one of the ideas behind it. The problem I have is not what DJ Lagway plays, doesn't play. I mean, if he's practicing, he should be listed as questionable at the very least.
Yeah,
maybe doubtful, whatever. The thing I have a problem with is what Ole Miss is doing right now.
The Belichick.
They have 30. What do they have? 30 guys listed on their injury list.
It was like
Jerry has a theory on this. Jerry has a great theory on this. What is your theory about why Ole Miss is doing that, Jerry?
Yeah, and somebody said it in one of the chats earlier this week, and he was thinking along the same lines as I was. And they had more than this on Wednesday. They initially had about 10, 12 more guys in this. Every single defensive lineman was on this list. Well, what happens if you want to stop the game due to injury, Rod? Hey, we told you on our injury report that player X was questionable on Wednesday.
So it justifies it.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, it's actually brilliant if that's what they're doing. Because you can't
provide cover.
Yeah, you're faking. You can't be fake. And we told you all our guys. We put them on the injury report, guys. What do you want us to do?
That's pretty good. That's not a bad theory. That's not bad.
Hey, Jerry, this one coming in super chat from Juan Garza. Juan, thank you so much. Jerry, can you talk about if the Georgia DL commit Steven Shivers has said he'd heard from Texas? Your thoughts? Shivers is a big dude now. I think he goes around 4 bills.
Oh,
too big.
Like big dude. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, too big. I would say two things with this. One, I've heard he's 380 plus this season as a senior. He's moved into the Nashville area. I think he's at Brentwood Academy now. Look, my thought is if Georgia thought he was a great player, they wouldn't have let him go.
Yeah.
Just my thought on that.
Yeah. They may be making room.
Yeah, Kirby Smart isn't pushing away great defensive linemen. Never has.
All right. This one from RJ Yarborough. Bobby, taking Justin to Puerto first Texas game.
Hey.
What does that mean? Puerto fight. I think that's a typo. I just can't figure it out. What time do the players walk Bevo Boulevard? Would there be enough time to do that and catch y'all at the tailgate? Absolutely, time to do both.
Yeah.
The players, I think, will probably get there tomorrow, 2.5 hours before game time, so around
8:30, 15 minutes. Yep.
Yeah. I know this a little bit because you're doing that EA Sports thing.
Yes, sir.
Where you're playing the video game on Bevo Boulevard.
Yep.
And I think that the bus drops off the players as well as the parade around 8:15 tomorrow morning. And then obviously the game doesn't start till 11. So feel free, RJ, to come on up and hang out with us if you don't mind. That would be great. Let's go to a little prediction here. We've talked a little bit about the game itself. Before we go to the next topic or the next overall thought process, what do y'all think about the game itself? Like, give me your score predictions for the game. I did that this morning on the Coffee and Football. Jerry and I did. Rod, what do you got for this game?
I believe I'm around 34-10. I believe that is my score. Yeah, I got the Longhorns, and I'm assuming the offense has a bounce back performance. Most of the offensive line, so they score in the low 30s there or mid 30s. And like I said, I trust the defense. So I'll say the defense. If the offense doesn't give up a lot of short fields like they've done the last two games, the Texas defense will hold them to. Maybe they'll get a touchdown. I really don't know if Aiden Warner's the starting quarterback, how they march the length of the field to score. I'm really having a hard time trying to figure that out. Because especially if they're missing Eugene Wilson, which they are. Elijah Badger, we're not sure about. He's their most explosive receiver after Eugene Wilson. And then I'm not sure about Montrell Johnson and his status. He was their marquee running back prior to getting hurt. And they actually have some depth at running back, but without him, they're less effective, all right, in the running game. So 34-10 sounds about right to me. I
got to be honest. I think the two that are going to play out of that group are Montrell Johnson and Elijah Badger.
They should. The offense needs him.
Yeah. Well, Johnson was a game time decision against Georgia. He was on the sideline, geared up, and they just said he couldn't go. So that means Texas. He's close enough.
Yeah.
I don't think Georgia. They're not saving. They just play Georgia. They're not saving him from Texas.
I know.
That's their rival. Manscaped 34, Florida 14. Good stuff from Joe Z. But my point on asking you guys this is, that's a 20+ point win.
Yeah.
For Texas. Jerry, what was your prediction as well?
I'm 34-16. Look, I think Florida's got good football players, and they got a really good kicker, by the way. So I'm thinking like a touchdown and 3 field goals for them. But look, I'm going with that because I've got to see Texas play a clean game on offense and special teams. Texas is it's more self-inflicted wounds than anything in the last 4 games offensively, going back to Mississippi State with the fumbles and whatnot, drop touchdown pass. So I want to see a clean game. If Texas comes out and plays a clean game, especially clean first quarter, offensively, and clean in special teams, gives Matthew Golden a chance for a return. Silas Bolden is close. I mean, to having a big return, a touchdown return. If Texas plays a clean offense, and that doesn't mean perfect. There's a difference between clean and perfect. We're not looking for perfection. That's not realistic. If Texas plays a clean game on offense and special teams, I do think they could win. They could cover the spread here, but I'm going to have to see that to believe it right now. My other thing is, my question for Rod is, they played 2 high shell off corners against Kentucky and Georgia. What can Austin Arm? How aggressive can he get if all his corners are out? I mean, I guess that's my question. He's essentially going to play a safety at corner Saturday. I mean, they're having to move a lot of pieces around. How aggressive can he be with a secondary that's that banged up against that much speed? That's my question. Where is that line for him?
I think honestly, they're coming in here. I don't think they have a lot to lose. So I do think I'm kind of following, Bobby's train of thought. If I'm Florida's coaches and I've been watching Vanderbilt and watching Georgia, I'm coming after Texas. And I know my cornerback situation in DBs. I'm down 2 starters. They can't hold up in coverage anyway. Yeah. I'm coming after Texas anytime I get a chance. So I think they will be aggressive in that regard. But I mean, looking at the explosive plays they've allowed via the pass, right? They've allowed 33 20-plus yard pass plays through the air. That's 111th in the country. You can make plays against it, and this is with starters out there, right?
Right.
Now that they're a little bit depleted, you can make plays against this Florida secondary. And starting to look at the rush defense, that's actually, and you've been talking about this for a while, Jerry, that is their true Achilles heel. They're 88th in rush defense. So this is why it's a bounce back game for Texas, and it should be the game to get their mojo back. Because if you want to attack them via the air, they're depleted in the secondary, down multiple starters, and they give up a lot of explosive plays. CJ gave the great stat the other day that they've had 94 missed tackles. They're having 12 missed tackles a game. How the hell are you going to tackle Isaiah Bond and DeAndre Moore and Matthew Golden on those wide receiver screens and Jaden Blue out in the backfield when you can't really tackle well in the open field? So if Sark wants to attack them that way, he probably can. Because like you said, they could go conservative with the too high shell. If they want to be aggressive and try to blitz Texas, which I would, because they have not shown that they can hold up versus the blitz in the last 2 weeks. So I would blitz them and come up with some creative pressure packages. And if you want to run the ball, which you haven't done really well consistently, this should be the game where you should be able to bounce back and run the ball. And if you can't do those things versus Florida, like I said, then maybe we need to adjust our expectations for the Texas offense and what they're capable of.
Guys, I'm going 24-13 Texas.
You've adjusted your expectations already.
I have. I've gone there. And
So
I think people wanting Texas to be a better offensive team right now are missing some aspects. One is they don't have a real downhill threat in the run game to take and to really make play action work for Quinn Ewers. And because of that, you're not getting the safeties to draw up. They'll only draw up if they see Quinn going in a outside zone where they have to fill. I'm at that scenario right now that Texas is not they're not going to reach where they could have preseason, because right now is when we're seeing them without Cedric Baxter have that guy, and for whatever reason neither Wisner or Blue can be that guy downhill.
Should they have worked Jerry Gibson into that guy earlier then?
I think they tried, and he just wasn't there. He just not ready mentally, maybe. With the pass protection type stuff. You can't just bring a guy in and then hand it off to him every single time. It makes it too predictable. And so I'm going 24-13. I will say this. Jerry brought this up early this week, and as much as anything, I agree with him on this. First down defense for Texas. Extraordinarily important when you're playing a brand new quarterback that frankly is just he doesn't have the arm talent of a true starter.
No.
And so you want him to be in 3rd and 2 and be able to do a waggle. You want him to be a 3rd and 2 and just do a stop route over the middle to a tight end. You want all of those things. If they can get to those scenarios because they've had a good successful first down, they have a chance to be more successful than you want them to. They can make it into a backyard brawl situation as opposed to potential blowout. Because if Texas has success on first down early in particular, and Florida doesn't know what the hell to do, this game could be a big-time blowout. And Jerry, y'all are both predicting blowouts of sorts.
Pretty much,
I mean, it's not the typical 42-0 type stuff. But those are heavy 20-plus wins that y'all are predicting right now for the Longhorns. And I just feel like we saw a lot of what Texas really was when their backs were against the wall up at Vandy. And they should have maybe scored 34 in that game, but that would have come with the defensive score. I think the only way Texas gets to 34 or so on Saturday, this is my opinion, is a Silas Bolin punt return, is a defensive pick six, strip sack against a young quarterback that doesn't take care of the ball well in the pocket.
Non-offensive touchdown.
Non-offensive touchdown.
Hey, guys, I wanted to say something that I think because we talk about this game, the actual game Saturday a lot. I want to say something that I think I've missed this week. How awesome is it that Florida's playing at Texas in college football? I mean, if you're my age, I'm 49, okay, and I was working in the business. But think about this. I was watching Vince Young and TJ Ford. Florida, right after that, came with 2 national titles in basketball. First team to repeat 2 in basketball as UConn in the last 2 years. Tim Tebow. I mean, that Texas and Texas A&M, when, were dominating college baseball as well at Texas, dominating the college sports landscape for a period of time before Nick Saban went to Alabama. Those two teams were dominant in college athletics. And, I mean, Texas had a Final Four in basketball. TJ Ford came back in Elite Eight, right? Texas had VY, right? Won the national title. Then Florida. I mean, how cool is it that University of Florida is playing at Texas tomorrow? I think it's awesome. I mean, it's just awesome because Florida will eventually return in football. I don't know when, but they will. There's too much talent in that state. It's too great of a university academically, and they have a national brand. But it's just awesome that Florida is playing at Texas tomorrow.
Hey,
and this is the game.
Who would you rather be playing at home, Jerry? Iowa State, Kansas State, or Florida?
Yep.
I know which one's got more people in here at the Co-op right now looking at Texas gear, and that's Florida fans.
Gators,
I see blue. I see some blue in here.
It's a lot of
one behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
what Todd Lacey said. Texas, Florida should have played in the 08 game.
Yep.
Probably should have.
Oh man.
Hey, this one from Justin Yarbrough. Jerry, I would bet a 12-piece Chick-fil-A nugget that Jackson Blackwell, the defensive lineman out of Lorena that's committed to Baylor, ends up a Longhorn if offered. He sure has been on campus a lot. Jerry, you reported that he's expected to be back yet again this weekend for the Texas-Florida matchup.
Yeah, he is, and it's light communication. So I don't think anything's moving seriously there headed into this weekend. But I think, look, Texas has made more of a move with Malcolm Simpson. But I don't think Justin is wrong. I just don't know if Texas is going to make that push there. I think we'll see. If it doesn't start next week, I just don't think it'll happen. But they did invite him back for another game, so they're continuing to evaluate him. Similar to Malcolm Simpson, but Sark has put more attention on Malcolm Simpson so far.
Back around to all right. Tell you what, you guys, let's talk a little bit about one of our key sponsors, and they have a wine garden available to you guys on Saturday at the game. And that's our friends over at Flat Creek. Also, if you're in this weekend and you happen to be a Gator fan listening, make sure you check out Flat Creek Estate Winery. It is the closest wine garden to the downtown Longhorn area. Again, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Tell them about it, Rod.
Love me some Flat Creek Estate wine. Trust me, my wife actually a big fan of Flat Creek Estate Winery and their new vintage wine, Super Texan. It's one of the most awarded wines right now in Austin, Texas, and you can go check them out at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Also, it's a great venue, a gorgeous venue, available for barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other, and just minutes from downtown Austin as well. You can't beat it. Flat Creek Estate Winery. They also have their selection available at Specs. I seen it at Central Market when I was doing some shopping there. If you try their Super Texan, trust me, folks, you will be a fan of it. My wife is. I am. Everybody I let try the Super Texan, they become a big fan of it. So you will try it for yourself. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. And also remember to stop by the new Flat Creek Wine Garden at the stadium on Saturday. There will be not only top shelf wine by the folks at Flat Creek, but also they'll have that frosé that you love for all the folks out there. And of course, they'll have beer too. The Flat Creek Wine Garden will be located between the north side of the stadium and the Bass Concert Hall. You won't be able to miss it. So stop by there and go check out Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com.
I think I may get one of those frosés tomorrow.
Hey, I know if it's
this hot, I have to put the umbrella in there. Hey, probably the biggest news this week for the Longhorns as it relates to football was Johntay Cook's decision here. If Jay Hodge is asking me, Bobby, what happened with Johntay Cook this week? That's probably been the biggest news. The young receiver out of DeSoto announced on Wednesday that he was leaving the program, and it was reported. Steve Sarkisian came back and said, yes, it was a mutual decision. Okay. So, Bobby, what happened? What really happened with Johntay Cook? Jerry and I have talked about this, Rod. And the reality of it is it was a mutual decision of sorts. Texas would have been happy earlier this week had Johntay decided to stay.
Yeah.
But some things happened.
Okay.
And that expedited this process. I'm not so sure that Johntay, even before this week, wasn't going to end up in the portal
100%.
anyways,
I agree with that.
because he fought, whether he likes it or not. We had a video on Texas football last week, Jerry, that we talked about outside the circle of trust.
Yep.
And Johntay had fallen that after that Mississippi State game, and when Silas Bolden then came in against Oklahoma and did what he did.
Yep.
You had one guy kind of theoretically pouting a little bit, while the other guy that's replacing him going and making a hell of a play. That was a team-based play. And you look at snaps per possession or whatever, and Jontay's have gone down almost to the direct number of where Silas Bolden's have increased.
Yep.
Not surprising.
Look, this is the thing that happens. I wish there was a study on it, but maybe there will be one day. But it's going to be hard to find the information. But look, last week I was driving around Florida going to schools, and I got a phone call and said, "Oh, yeah, he's going in the portal." And you don't just come out and say that. I mean, but okay, you heard it from somebody. But my thought on that was, once you make the decision that you're not going to be there, Rod, it's hard to stay 100% engaged in what you have to do as a college football player with the demands in a strength and conditioning program and an off week from a meeting standpoint. Once you check out, you're not going to be 100% in for the last 4, 5, 6 games of the season. No way. So it's not surprising to me when you see things kind of pop up that gets that to finality earlier, because you're just not in it. You're not in it anymore mentally.
Totally agree. It's like what Bill Parcells used to always say about, once you start thinking about retirement, just retire. It's already done. If you're thinking about it, you're no longer invested anyway.
Yeah, you're mentally checked out.
You're mentally checked out anyway.
By the way, you know who suited up last week? Sadir Mitchell.
Yeah. Good point.
I mean, look, Sadir Mitchell still here. I mean, so I'm hoping Sadir, because look, it wasn't called publicly a suspension, but the guy was suspended for a couple of games. He wasn't suited up. He wasn't on the sidelines, but suddenly he was back. He wasn't injured. He was suspended. So I hope Sadir, we talk about Johntay leaving. I hope Sadir, who's had his best 2 weeks of practice since he's been at Texas before that event that caused the suspension, and then he came back and Sark said he's practiced really well. I hope this was the turning point for Sadir, because we're talking about one player leaving. I want to talk about the player that right now is staying. I hope it works out for the kid. I hope this was his spot where he was like, okay, instead of 1 step forward and 2 steps back, it's time to go 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I mean, I hope for Sadir that he stays and works through this, because both those guys have a chance to be quality players. I really hope the guy that's still here, Sadir, I hope he's turned the corner.
Yeah. All right, we're here live at the University of Co-op here on game week Fridays. Rod and I've been here almost. I was out 1 week with COVID. Rod.
I was out 1 week because I had a Formula One engagement.
Yeah, there you go. We both missed one, but this is always a fun place for us to hang out on a Friday. Please come out and join us. They also have a full-on happy hour here that is free, by the way. That's very few that are free happy hours. Come out and join us. Also get some cool 40 Acres apparel right behind us. We'll talk about them a little bit later as well. Jerry Hamilton also joining us too as well. All right, guys, we have a couple of other comments and questions we're going to get here too in this live stream. Let's start with this one from Joe Z. I think Gelani McDonald should play more than Andrew Makuba, because Florida is going to be more run heavy. What do you think about that, Jerry? I'm in agreement with Joe Z.
Well, I think it's look, I think the where Texas is at right now, the good thing about bringing Makuba back is you don't have to bring him back and he has to play 60 snaps Saturday. Gelani McDonald played really well against Vanderbilt. So I think that's, and with Derek Williams out, we kind of wonder, who's going to step up and be the, as Rod calls it, the alley cat. Gelani McDonald played a really physical football game, and I'm not saying he's perfect in coverage. He's a young safety that hadn't played safety his whole life. He's still learning it, but he provided some physicality in run support, especially out on the perimeter. I thought was really good to see. So I think that's the great thing about Makuba coming back this week is You don't have to bring Makuba back and play him 60 snaps. You can have a rotation against Florida because they don't pose the type of offense right now or receiver core that forces Makuba into playing 60 snaps in coverage. I think it's a great spot to be for Texas.
McDonald over Makuba.
Makuba, I think, is probably more natural playmaker on the ball in coverage. He's definitely a better coverage defender, I think, than Gelani McDonald. But I would say this: I think Gelani McDonald ran the alley. And when Jerry talks about being the alley cat, talking about playing the run from depth, right? From 10 to 12 yards, being able to take a precise angle to the football and diagnose exactly where that run's gonna pop. And you're supposed to be able to do that by canceling gaps. And Michael Griffin used to talk about this all the time, that if you know the responsibility of your fellow defenders, your teammates, you can, and you trust them, you can actually predict where the ball's gonna pop. Because everybody's responsible for a certain gap. And really good alley cats, they know where that ball, the vicinity of where it's going to pop, and they take great angles to the football. I think Gelani McDonald ran the angle as well as any safety for Texas since, man, honestly, as well as Derek Williams running. I think he was really good at running that alley. It was really impressive. I'm with you. I think he should earn more reps as a result of how he played versus Vandy.
Okay, this is Matt Zenith, some new breaking news here. A little bit of a recruiting topic. The NCAA has issued a waiver that suspends the limit on official visits a team can host. Previously, teams had been limited to 70 official visits per cycle. However, teams can now host an unlimited number of official visits.
Wow.
Through the month. Jeff.
Wow.
When's the last time a team even approached 70 official visits in a year, Jerry? Is this just another one of those rules in the rule book? They're just knocking off to eliminate useless rules? Because I can't remember a time anybody brought in 70 official visitors.
Well, this is actually huge news, and obviously this is breaking while we're on this live stream. I haven't had a chance to read this, but if I understand correctly, that means the competition to get kids on campus for your junior days just went to hyper speed, because they can now be official visits in January for your junior days. Now, you won't do it for all kids, but what that does, that's a pretty significant rule change with the recruiting calendar as it is today. I mean, that means you could bring in, Bobby, you could bring in 20 guys for official visits on a junior day weekend in January, if I read that correctly.
I don't think that you're right. Maybe it's too soon to diagnose exactly what that means, because I think they're talking about seniors, because high school juniors cannot take official visits till summertime, correct?
Spring. Until the spring, but it said through March, which is I haven't had a chance to read it. I mean, because everything to me means we're moving towards a signing day in July, or not having a signing day period anymore. Okay, let's see what this does. It have a date?
Hey, Jerry, will you read that for us, please?
Yeah. So here's the key. Prospective student athletes can visit a school as many times as they'd like for an unofficial visit, and a school can host a prospect for one official visit. Since December 22, FBS programs have been able to host a maximum of 70 official visit football prospects from April 1 to the following March 31st. So that was one. So here's the thing. For the next cycle, the request of Division I Football Subdivision Oversight Committee, the NCAA has issued a blanket waiver suspending the school limit on the number of official recruiting visits available to FBS members for hosting football prospective student athletes. The waiver is effective immediately and is in place for a football's current recruiting cycle, April 1 of 2024 through March 31st of 2025. So
yeah, that means that means that junior days aren't really affected, Jerry, because it's in a single year. So they won't be getting there until, if they can't start until the spring, which is that April time period, that'll be the next recruiting class, right? And then you can still only have one official visit per player, per team. So in other words, if they come in a junior day, they can't come in, or if a junior day is in March or January, they can't come in until then. is how I read that. Is that your takeaway on that now? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll come back.
I get what they're saying, but so we're starting April 1 of 2025. See, it says for the current recruiting cycle, which makes sense, but I mean, all the seniors are going to be done by then. So if we go by April 1 to March of 2025, which that makes no sense because kids are done in December with the recruiting process for the most part, and they're all 80% of these kids are early enrollees. But one of the main things is, here's the other thing then. That means you could conceivably have 100 official visitors.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Have 100 official visitors from April to end of June. If you want.
What are you going to do that for? That's ridiculous. I think they're just removing the rule off the book because they're cleaning the rule book up right now.
Yeah.
I think they're just
the lawsuits.
Yeah, just get rid of all that stuff. Hey, we want to say thank you to our sponsor. I mentioned earlier we're at the Co-op. This live stream is brought to you by the University of Texas Co-op, and this is we're here actually today, courtesy of 40 Acres Apparel. The University of Texas Co-op is a nonprofit and has been serving the Longhorn community since 1896. Every penny of profit directly benefits course material scholarship. In fact, more than 7,000 students receive free course material scholarships in the 23-24 academic school year. 40 Acres Apparel was born inside DKR, designed and built exclusively by the University of Texas and Longhorn Nation. Go down to the University of Texas Co-op or go to University of Texas Co-op.com and geared up with 40 Acres Apparel. Tremendous clothing. We've got it wearing it, Rod.
Yeah.
You see Quan Cosby looking all fit there as well. 40 Acres is also a proud sponsor of the course material scholarship for UT Austin students. I really appreciate them. All right, let's take this into the offensive line realm because they've gotten a little beat up on from the media, from the fans. Let's ask this. Michael, the Co-op employee, raises his hand to that as well. Joe wants to know, how do coaches instill in Cam Williams to redirect his anger to the next play and not after the whistle? How many plays has he gotten after the whistle? Just one this year?
One or two. Yeah, something like that.
I think I would love to see him blocking more to the whistle. Texas has, I don't think that's Cam Williams' issue, redirecting his anger. I think the only thing that I've really seen wrong with Cam Williams, he gets overset in his pass pro. And he gets beat inside more than he gets beat outside. Do you agree with that?
Easy to set him
wide,
up.
It's too much.
Yep. You can set him up very easy.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the most penalized lineman. I think
that includes false starts.
That includes false starts. I think it's like 11 penalties or something. That's a lot of penalties. That's not all the ones that were accepted and the ones that were declined, but he is the biggest violator, if you will, on that offensive line. I think the O-line period, as it, in my opinion, they have underachieved. They haven't had significant injuries. If you look at every other position that has maybe responsible for the regression on offense, running back, significant injuries, quarterback had injuries. The wide receivers, I think, have been fine, but the offensive line has had no significant injuries. They have more continuity and chemistry and experience together than anybody else. Supposedly have 3 NFL players on the line right now, if not more. What is the reason for the offensive line underachieving? Can anybody give me the reason? So to me, there's no excuse for the O-line to underachieve. They're supposed to be a Joe Moore award-winning, or at least in the conversation to be a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, and they have not played like that the last 2 weeks. So I know we've been tough on them, but I don't know if they played up to the expectations, in my opinion.
Jerry, you had a theory about why the offensive line has been penalized more than, especially in the holding arena, than other teams.
Yeah, I hadn't talked to Rod about this. So my thought on it is, and this isn't me questioning scheme or coaching or anything like that. I think when you work around guys rather than through guys, you're always going to be more susceptible to getting holding calls. I think that's pretty and now Texas is playing against a different level of athlete that's trying to play on your side of the line of scrimmage. And I think that is something you have to get accustomed to. I think the outside zone, the wide zone, as much as that's a part of what Texas is doing, they're having to reach. They're trying to work around guys more instead of through guys more. And I think when you do that naturally in your peripheral and just from a leverage standpoint, you're always going to be in a position to where you get called for more holds because you're also working on the perimeter more. You're not in the box. So I think it invites more holding calls. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right. That's just my opinion. I don't know where Rod goes with that.
All right, we got another update here on DJ Lagway, the Florida quarterback. Billy Napier coming out saying, not Napier, but it's being reported that DJ Lagway will be a game time decision.
Wow.
We thought all week long it wouldn't be the Longhorns facing DJ Lagway. It would be their backup, Adrian Warner. Now it looks like game time decision means game time decision. He's definitely come back more than maybe perhaps thought, Rod and Jerry. Is there a chance he really plays, or is this total gamesmanship? I mean, we wrote it off largely as gamesmanship on Monday, Tuesday when he said this. What do we really think now, though? I mean, you don't come out and say game time decision unless it's really a game time decision.
Unless, and listen, there are superhuman freaks living among us. I've played with some in the NFL, played with some in college. There are some anybody, and I hate bringing this up because it's such a, honestly, I just feel like we were lucky that something bad didn't happen. Anybody remember when Bijan Robinson basically fell on his head, on his neck, and we all thought he broke his neck. We all were like, something. I don't know if he's ever going to play football again. And then he hopped back up and walked to the sideline. And then Tom Herman said the next week that he passed all the physicals, but he still limited him because he was like, from what I saw, I was traumatized. The whole team came out to console this guy. So even they thought it was serious. They carted him off the field. So the trainers thought it was serious. He came back on the sideline with crutches. I thought, so it was serious at the time. Maybe he's just a physical freak, man, that it heals up like Wolverine or something. I cannot imagine him actually hurting his. Guys, even minor hamstring injuries keep you out the next week.
Right. They carted him off.
I know.
This guy's going to come out in a Willis Reed jersey tomorrow in Florida pants. I mean,
I've got to say this as well. The other thing that I would say, I do remember a certain Texas quarterback, you're talking about superhumans.
Yeah.
Basically turn his ankle sideways and looked like he broke it against Kansas State.
Ooh.
And then came back in and threw a deep ball to Tony Jeffrey. I just
see what I'm saying? Those guys exist.
There are guys out there.
They are. I mean,
I don't know if y'all remember that. What looked like I was like, oh, Vince is gone for the game.
Yep.
I don't know. Next series coming back in.
He said to rock it off.
Yeah.
So he might be that guy, man.
We'll see if that is the key.
If so, Jerry's got to go on Texags. So I think that's
not going to be a live show in front of Texags.
Okay. It's gonna be awesome.
Your mouth may have overloaded you on that one, buddy. Thanks to Matthew Hutchison, our producer, for pulling that up for us. Here's one from Eddie Kane. Hey, Rod, I've noticed quarterbacks don't line up under center anymore. I thought that helps the run game and play action.
It does, actually. It does, actually. They've done studies in the NFL. The pistol is making a comeback in the NFL right now, and it's because it's the compromise to try to get a downhill running game going, because you want the momentum of a guy actually being able to run toward the hole instead of the shotgun handoff, which doesn't allow for you to have a downhill running attack as much. So that's why the pistol's making a big comeback. And Texas used the pistol, by the way. Texas is never under center. If Texas is under center, Sark is doing something funky. It's a double pass or something, double reverse, something crazy is going on in Texas under center. So you are right. But the coaches believe there's more benefits of being in the shotgun and in pistol rather than being under center. There are some teams still doing it, though. Actually, the Philadelphia Eagles are still doing some under center stuff, trying to get downhill. You've seen the Falcons every now and then have tried to do some stuff. So there are still some teams that go under center. Shanahan loves it, and the Shanahan clan, the Mick Shanahan coaching tree, they go under center a lot, old school running game. But yeah, it is true. It helps the downhill running game. But teams still decide there's more advantages to being in shotgun and pistol.
I think there's a couple pieces to it as well. And I think Rod's right on point. And I think there's a couple of things that have developed in football that are pieces of this as well. What was the average size of an offensive lineman 30 years ago, height-wise? I mean, and where are we at now, the size of these guys? I think, look, it's much better for a quarterback from a vision standpoint to take the ball in a shotgun as athletes have gotten bigger, stronger, and faster than 30 years ago. That's just one thing I look at with the sport and how the athletes have changed. Man, if I want my quarterback taking the snap 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and not getting into a 3, 5, and 7 with my backside exposed, and with these guys who are bigger all around their peripheral and offensive line and defensive line. That's just a thought I have from a pure how the game has changed standpoint. I might be off, but I think you guys have noticed how big guys are now compared to 25, 30 years ago.
That's a good point, Jerry. And I'll add this, because Jerry's point, how the game has changed. The game is a quick game now. It's all about 3-step drops, getting the ball out quick. We complain about Texas offense because there's too much quick game in it. 60% of NFL offenses, all the routes are 3-step, 0 to 3-step drops. It's your quick out, your hitch, your slant routes. So with that being said, it makes it easier just to be in shotgun rather than having to get your footwork right under center. It really impedes the quick game. And I think that's the shotgun lends itself to the quick game and getting the ball out.
Good discussion, guys. All right, here's a quick response here for you. MJF has help. I'm going to Moody for the game tonight. Longhorns taking on Houston Christian in men's basketball. Your first opportunity to see true freshman Trey Johnson hoop for the Horns in person. I'm going tonight, Rod.
Good stuff.
Where do you park at Moody? You know, I think I know where I'm parking. I'm staying where I'm at the garage here. In Maynard Garage. I'm walking over to Moody across campus. I don't think I've ever parked going there. I've taken an Uber to that game.
Yeah, I usually park like closer to downtown and just walk toward Moody.
Yeah,
it's easier that way. But
across from MLK.
Yeah. I park
one of those old parking garages.
Yeah.
What's the parking garage right by off of
the Maynard parking garage?
At Red River.
Yeah, Maynard.
Yeah. That's where you want to be for Moody. It's kind of like the same place you'd have parked to go to the Irwin Center. That garage, you park at that same garage to go to Moody. You just hang a left instead of going straight.
I have a garage. I want to get out quick. And then garage sometimes get stuck in the garage.
I hate garages.
I get stuck in there. Really I want to get out.
This is from Rapid Calm. Jerry, do you think there's anything to be said about how a lot of the margin hooks guys seem to be transferring? Is that a coincidence, or is it just the way of the world right now in receiverdom across the country? Because frankly, it ain't just margin hooks, in my opinion. It's everybody.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I do think Micah Hudson's probably out. That's actually a really interesting question, man. One of the things is when you walk out of high school and you're really prepared to play, sometimes, the realism of the process of the college, continuing your process can be skewed a little bit because a lot of those guys are really highly ranked as well. Because there's been Micah Hudson's I'm hearing things. I'm not saying I know for sure. Johntay's gone. There's been a few. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure I want to tie that to anything. I think Margin Hooks does a great job with those kids, training them. But I think like Bobby said, it's an epidemic right now in college sports in general. I'm not sure it's epidemic. But I do think this: if you're ranked really high as a prospect and things don't go as well as you thought they would in year one and in the year two, chances in college football, you're out the door. Very few of those guys are sticking around. So I'm not sure if it's just because Margin has the best receivers in Dallas minus DeCorian Moore working out with him. He's just got all those guys, and some of those guys are going to transfer out because they all don't transfer out. Nick Anderson hasn't left Oklahoma. He was really, really good before he injured his quad this year. Marvin Mims at Oklahoma didn't transfer out. So, I mean, I think it may just be these last 2 or 3 really marquee guys is what's going on.
Or maybe during the advent of NIL.
Yeah, there's that.
Rick Anderson is also the brother of Rodney Anderson, who played at OU too. So you can kind of maybe able to throw that one aside. David Keith Williams, what's your view of the defense not getting interceptions and sacks in the same game, Rod? As great as the defense has been, they haven't necessarily been productive getting interceptions and sacks in the same game. Is there some guy there that would seem they would go like hand in hand?
Yeah.
As opposed to juxtaposed.
I actually have not thought about that. It's a good point, David Keith Williams. I'm satisfied with the defense. I am. I know we'd want more splash plays and havoc plays, but man, they're number 1 in yards per play allowed. Only defense allowing fewer than 4 yards per play in the country. Number 1 explosive play defense. They allowed the fewest explosive plays in the country, only 13. Only 1 rush over 20 yards. Number 1 total defense. Number 1 pass defense. I agree with you, David Keith Williams, but it's hard for me to be this nitpicky and ask more from the defense because they've done really well at this point. But you're right. That's something I'll look into because I'm not sure why that's the case. Maybe it's about the style of offenses they play when that's the case. And some offenses are trying to look downfield more. Remember Colorado State? You couldn't get to Colorado State, right? Ball was out too quick. That was just the style of the offense. So it could be something about that if they have an offense that negates pressure with the time to throw, things of that nature, that maybe the interceptions, you're getting the hands on more footballs that way.
Hey, by the way, if we put that stat page, Matthew had the stat page up. I want to ask you guys a question. If Texas gets 2 takeaways tomorrow, do they cover the line?
Depends on how many Texas gives up.
Yeah.
I think it's more important how many Texas gives up than how many Texas gets.
I think you're right.
You can't give easy points to a team that is already struggling on offense like Florida is.
By the way, one of the things Florida said in the press conference, and look, I'm not getting on Billy Napier here. You got to talk about your positives. Is they've had 6 interceptions the last 2 games, Kentucky and Georgia. But if you watch the Kentucky game, Brock Vandegrift threw a shallow crosser up and behind the tight end. The guy was wide open. So that was 1. That was a bad throw. 2, Barian Brown dropped the 20-yard in route right to his bread basket that was picked off on the glance by a Florida DB. And then the other was Carson Beck, who's playing at a very low level. So I know the stats say Florida's had 6 interceptions the last 2 games, but if you watch the games, I'm not sure they really had 6 interceptions, if you know what I mean.
All right, before we get going, we got another couple questions we're going to get to. I want to tell you all about what we got going on tomorrow. We have the Saturday morning conversation. Myself, Rod B, and CJ Vogel get going, brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Texas tailgate at 9:30. Jerry and I talk a little Longhorn football right before the game gets going, thanks to our friends at South Point Dodge and Hargrove Roofing. Watch with us. If you guys want to turn down the sound on the TV and listen to Aaron Hogan, Rod Babers, Jerry Hamilton, Bob Shipley talk about the Longhorns, make sure you check us out then. And then the post-game live immediately following the game, we'll have all your commentary that you need about the Longhorns. All right, before we get going, I do want to come back, predict Colin Simmons' stats tomorrow. Before we get to that, I want to ask y'all this, okay? And I've got a question for you guys from Todd Lacey. Who are your players of the game? Who are your players of this game?
Who I want it to be?
Or who do you think it's going to be? Not necessarily who you want it to be. Who do you think
I'll go.
Go for it.
Quinn Ewers. And I'm going to go Manny Muhammad.
Oh, Manny Muhammad.
Let's go.
Man, if DJ Lagway plays, those corners are going to be stretched deep, and so are the safeties.
That's good.
Because Lagway can throw the ball a ways, Jerry.
Yeah,
throw the ball away.
Yeah, he can chunk
what do you think? So Muhammad and yours.
I'm on defense. I'm gonna go with somebody that's big in the run game. I think they're gonna run the rock a lot. I'll go with I'm gonna go with Anthony Hill. It's all right. I mean, that's an easy one to see. He's always in the mix, but
yeah,
big game for him because I think they're gonna try to run the rock at you. And on offense, I'll go with this is tough. Honestly, I feel like Gunnar Helm's gonna have a big day.
He
always has a good day.
He's
been the guy. He's been the guy. I feel like Gunnar Helm's going. Guys, if I told you Gunnar Helm leads this team in 20-plus yard receptions If I told you that at the beginning of the season that would be the case through 8 games, would you have believed me?
No.
Well, that is the case, guys. He has more explosive receptions than any player on the roster right now. That is amazing. So I'm gonna go with Gunnar Helm. I don't know why he popped in my head, but Gunnar Helm.
I would have voted for like 5 other players before I voted for Gunnar Helm.
Exactly. Yep. I agree.
I don't know about you, Jerry.
Yep.
Hey, Rod, I think you're on to something because I do think the Florida linebackers can be had in coverage. And that's running backs and tight end, by the way.
So
yes.
So you may go Jaden Blue, or you could
Yeah,
go
that's
Jaden
another
Blue,
one.
Trey Weiser. I tell you, I'm gonna go with the guy, the comeback kid, Isaiah Bond.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does on Saturday against the Gators. And then on defense, Rod, I hate to do this to you, but I gotta jump on top of your back and ride Anthony Hill to maybe a sack.
It makes
fumble.
me feel good. Yeah.
How about a sack fumble tomorrow for Anthony Hill? That sounds like it could be a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Right? You should have had a pick against Vandy, by the way.
Should have.
Yeah, went right through his hands. But hey, all right. Here we go from Clay K.
Hey.
My guys, happy Friday. Looking forward to seeing y'all at tailgate tomorrow. We'll see you there, Clay. Don't worry, Bobby. I'll bring the tequila. Looking forward to seeing our pass rush get after a young QB, hook them, and beat Florida. That's a great way to end this chat, Clay K. And I may or may not have a tequila.
Depends on how many sacks they give up. It is.
Yeah.
So he may have some
we don't want Jerry doing anything from Texags tomorrow.
That's true.
We don't want any of that. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much to the co-op once again for allowing us to be here, as well as our sponsors, Black Creek Estate Winery, and our fine friends over at 40 Acres Apparel. Guys, it has been a tremendous time here today and this afternoon. Good luck tomorrow. We'll see you soon. Coming back at you 7 o'clock in the morning for the Saturday conversation. For Jerry Hamilton, Rod Babers, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchinson, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good weekend. Hook 'em.